Good morning, y'all. Hope you're having a super day so far and it continues to be just great. It's me, Margaret, she, her, Dr. France, if you want to get formal about it. And I just wanted to check in and let you know that there's a bunch of stuff that you can do to make your paper shine. You have comments from me, you have comments from fellow students. And the thing that I feel is really important about workshop is that you all have been given the same problem to solve with writing. And we don't think of writing as problem solving in the same way we might think of it in math or science. But it really is like every time you're given a prompt, it's a story problem and you are going to solve it with a story. So you should have some new ideas for how you can solve this problem from looking at how other people solved it and just from having that time and that space to think about the problem itself, what you've done, and to ask yourself some questions about the way that you solved it the first time. So when I'm talking about revision, I'm not talking about going through and fixing all the grammatical errors. I am talking about re-seeing the problem so that you can make your solution more compelling, more focused, more in line with the prompt. And so a lot of my comments were about how well you were solving that problem according to the prompt. I did give comments in the margins that maybe brought attention to grammatical issues and things like that. But for the most part, you need to recognize that as you write, you become a better writer. The writer who started that draft was not as skilled, not as smart, not as good at solving that problem as the writer who finished it. So if you take that writer and let that writer go to town on that draft, well, you're going to end up with a much better paper, aren't you? Because it's a better writer. Of course it's going to be better, right? So sometimes we're really afraid because we've made this thing and we're like, oh no, if I go into this thing, I could ruin this thing that I made. You're not going to ruin it. You're better at what you do now. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. So obviously you have my comments to help you. You have your fellow students' comments to help you. I also have this beautiful worksheet. It's called Check Yourself, and it's a 7-step revision plan. And I'm just going to go through it really quickly. And it mentions global issues and mechanical issues. Global issues are those things I'm talking about with revision where you're like looking at better ways to solve the problem. So we're talking about the structure of the paper, the content of the paper, the tone of the paper. These are things that are going on throughout the whole paper. So you wouldn't want to start fixing the grammatical stuff and the mechanical stuff until you've gone through the global stuff, because why go through that paragraph and fix every single little thing that's wrong with it? Put an apostrophe where the S needs an apostrophe, take away an apostrophe where it doesn't. If you're going to decide that paragraph does not serve me, right? That would feel awful, It's the way that nobody washes the rental car. Everything that's in your paper right now is the rental car. When you have it structured and the content is where you want it to be, then you go through and do the mechanical improvements. So the first step in doing your own revision, so this is a revision that you could do if you had 0 comments on your paper, 0 feedback, is just to go through and find the structure. So maybe you started with an outline. Even if you started with an outline, go through as if there's no outline at all and try to make an outline from what you have. And this is a process called reverse outlining. And what this is really good for is that we think we know what we're doing when we start writing, but writing is a thinking process. So once we start writing, our brain is going. So we're not thinking the same way about things that we're writing about that we were when we started. And so you can kind of catch yourself either falling away from the outline that you started with or embarking on a new structure. And as you go through to make the outline, you're going to want to see okay, this paragraph seems like it has major shifts, right? It seems like it should be one bullet on the outline, but it's actually 3. And that's a great sign to you as a writer. Like, okay, maybe I need to expand this point, or maybe I need to cut these things. But in terms of how you want a paper to flow, you want there to be one main point in that paragraph that you're backing up with supporting points and not to switch, right? So another great reason to do a reverse outline is kind of catch your paragraphs when they're flippity-floppity, switching around. Step 2, all right, so you did the reverse outline, which means you reread that whole paper. Now that you've reread the whole paper, are there some ideas that could be expanded? Maybe that giant paragraph shouldn't be a giant paragraph. Maybe that giant paragraph means that what you thought was the main topic of that paragraph is actually the thesis of your whole paper. Imagine. So after you've read the whole thing, think about what you could expand. Think about what needs to be there in force. Maybe you won't find anything, maybe you will. It's just a process that we're going to go through, okay? Step 3, this is the worst step. This is absolutely the worst step. That's why it's step 3. It's in the middle. Better to do the bad stuff toward the beginning, or at least in the middle, so that you can be like, oh, now we're on the downslope. Read your entire paper out loud. You're actually going to do this as step 3 and as a final step, because that's the only way to catch stuff. Read it out loud. The only upside to reading your work out loud is that it can really annoy the people around you, and they can't say anything about it because you're doing it for school. So sorry, not sorry. Read it out loud. Read it out loud, and in fact, print it out and read it out loud. Ooh. Okay, step 4. So we've looked at the paragraphs and we've asked what the paragraphs are about. In step 4, interrogate your sentences. Ask each sentence. Grab that sentence by the shoulder and say, hey, you, do you have a subject? Is there something that is acting here? Wait, is there a predicate? Is there an action here? What are you doing? What is nothing happening here? Is there just like a thing that exists? That is not a sentence. Is there just an action that is being taken? Again, not a sentence. You need to have a thing and an action. Sentence working together, subject and predicate. So interrogate your sentences. And then as you interrogate, maybe you got a subject and a verb. Does the tense of the verb match that subject? Check it out. And is this a run-on sentence? Is this something that maybe would be more easily imbibed by your reader if it was broken up into smaller sentences? So step number 5, check out all those capital letters. Every time you see a capital letter, ask it, are you a capital letter because you are the beginning of a sentence? Great. Are you a capital letter because you are a proper noun? Great. Are you a capital letter because I'm trying to draw more attention to you as a concept? Not great. No. I'm not going to talk trash about Germans. I mean, I could. They've done some bad things. Very bad things. But in German, you routinely capitalize nouns. And some of that has sort of like shifted into English in very strange ways, where like we put a capital letter in a word because we're like, I want you to look at this word. Don't do that. No. That word should grab the reader's attention because of the way that you framed your argument. You shouldn't have to like do anything flashy to it, right? No need to peacock. That's true also of using bold type and using italics when you're not making it clear that something is the title of something else, right? So go through, make sure that those caps are used for proper nouns. And if it's a proper noun, is it the title of an article or a song or an episode of a TV show? Because if that's why there's capitals, you want to put those in quotation marks, a little quotation mark hug, so we know that's a title. If it's the title of a book or a film or similarly a big thing like the entire TV show rather than just an episode, then it goes in italics. That's the international symbol for italics. Step 6, you got nouns. Do they end in S? Is it because they're plural? Or is it because they're possessive? I want all the nouns to have healthy relationships to the other nouns. So I'm not going to talk about whether it's okay for them to be possessive right now. I'm just going to say that as you go through, if you see the S at the end of a noun, ask that noun, are you plural? Okay. No need for an apostrophe. Are you possessive? Oh, then you need an S, but you need an apostrophe before that S. And if you are plural possessive, why? That apostrophe goes at the end, closing it up. Real cute, real cute. Finally, and this step is wild, read your piece backwards, because when you read backwards, you can dissociate yourself from the meanings of the words and just look at the words. And as you're reading your piece backwards, you can see things like your, like Y-O-U-R, their, T-H-E-R-E, or the other theirs. And see if, like, when you see those words, because as you're reading backwards, you're not going to skip over them. You see those words and you're like, is that the one that I want? Do I mean they are, or am I doing a possessive thing here? Do I mean your, it belongs to you, or do I mean you are? Break it all down. You're reading backwards. It's just words. It won't mean anything. When you find the words that could slow you down, then you can stop and be like, that one, it's not the one I wanted. Or maybe you did it all correctly, and so this is just a chance for you to celebrate yourself and celebrate what a great job you are adhering to the habits of standard American English, which are arbitrary and don't mean anything about how smart you are or how good you are at writing, but do allow you to make the right impression in college classes and cover letters in the future. So that's the Check Yourself 7-step revision process worksheet. And again, that's your next step after you've kind of responded to the comments and thought about like how you might want to reframe and maybe brought in some new sources, all of that stuff. That's the work that you can do completely on your own to make your paper a beautiful, perfect child of your imagination. And you all have this. You all have this in you. You all have this in you. You all have this in the file section. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing what you do. I enjoyed reading your drafts. Again, please contact me should you need. Have a wonderful day.